Howdy, howdy, howdy. I'm over here looking at the other monitor. I didn't realize the countdown quit. All right. Well, here we are at another Thursday night. Let's see here. I gotta make a few changes real quick. I ain't got things set up yet. Thought it did.
Oh, you ain't got to make no changes. Never change who you are, Johnny. I'm just messing. What's up, Dwight? How are you, buddy? Jason, of course. What's going on?
Alrighty. All right. Let everybody know next week Bill's got a show. He's not going to have a guest. Everybody else is going to be a guest. He wants to talk and ask people questions. So get ready for a pop quiz.
That's what I was getting ready to call it. How about that?
And let's see, 22nd of this month will be the next Thursday night show. All right, Tim, I ain't going to keep opening the door for you.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure this out.
Yeah. Well, when you click on the link, you come into what's called the green room or the back room. I don't know what they tell people, but you're not on camera until I see you and bring you in. It's not like whereby when you click on it, you come straight in.
Yeah, the point is to kind of give you more control, kind of like a CNN or a newsroom kind of anchor situation, I think.
Cool. Trying to cook some supper right now.
Making anything good? You ain't that far away. If it's really good.
Just ramen noodle.
Yeah, all right, never mind. I got nothing against ramen, though.
Yeah, that boy of mine eats it every day, buys 2-3 cases at a time. Keep telling me he'll get sick one day.
I think I ate enough ramen noodles when I was young for a lifetime, probably, so.
Dwight wants to know if you're under the helix.
I can't hardly do the same in the helix like Speed does or something, so.
They want to know, are you standing under the helix?
Yeah, kind of, but it's way up here. So it depends on what you want to call a helix. Ralph says it's not a helix, and he's probably right. It's just a loop. Just one big circle, one big loop.
Huh.
But it's way up here. I've been playing with this for a while, and had been kind of frustrated and discouraged, which is why you guys haven't seen me in this room. But now, anybody who's seen me in after hours or in the evenings lately has seen all the staging and all the inclines around the room that I've got built up at my workshop. I got a whole bunch of material, inclines all around this room, all new staging decks, all built, all framed, all ready to go. So hopefully this weekend my plan is to tear into my staging after I build what me and Robert spent a bunch of time last night figuring out the train shelves that I'm building and train elevator system possibly. So, of course, as is typical, I and of course Robert and Tim, Ralph, everybody likes to see me go down these rabbit holes and gets further enjoyment from it too. So, we spent a bunch of time figuring out how you could take just a simple shelf and massively overdo it because that is in my nature. So.
Oh, no, there's no figuring out how to massively overdo it. You start there, and we try to reel you back in.
Try. Sure, I give you credit for the attempt. It is going to be cool. All right. It is going to be cool. But of course, doesn't everybody who's just going to build a simple shelf figure out how to utilize a cricket and some stepper motors on their shelf? Isn't that common?
Wait a minute. When did you throw in stepper motors?
Oh, that's my elevator.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going to make the whole shelf slide up and down. Why wouldn't you?
Jeez.
Well, then I can connect trades to the shelf.
Andy,
So the shelf can
stop
slide
it.
up and down.
Just stop it. Jeez Louise. Look, it's bad enough that we got a cricket into the mix, okay? We don't need to add stepper motors.
Yes, but how beautiful is the Norfolk Southern logo as the background behind the shelves in felt? How
It's going to be pretty slick.
The designs that you drew out in the cricket, that stuff was beautiful. Spectacular. Yeah, Dwight. Sometimes. I think she's probably much like I am, and depends on the mood. Same as I do. Joey.
Oh, look at that. I got to go.
Quitter.
Oh,
I'm
Look,
just teasing.
everybody makes fun of the Italian Polish guy.
Getting all the strangers in here tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, it ain't got nothing to do with Italian and Polish. I think it's just Joey. But listen,
Yeah.
I'm saying that with love because I'm the brunt of all kinds of picking on, and I'm fine with it.
Even with Joey here, you're still the brunt of being picked on.
Always. I'm used
No
to it.
problem.
What'd you find? Can you bring it here?
Hey, there's not a good joke in the
Good
world
job,
that
thank you.
doesn't
Hey,
have somebody
you wanna
that's
say
the
hi?
butt of the joke. So if it's a good joke,
Okay.
I could be the recipient. Not a problem. Liam. Hi, buddy.
Look,
Boy, you're getting
Joey,
really big.
Andy and Johnny and Tim. Can you say hi? Can you wave?
Yeah, hi, buddy.
And you're on YouTube right now. I'm going to make you YouTube famous.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm streaming to the millions. It's for the #1 show in model railroading, of course.
To all 14 people watching us right now, you're famous.
Yeah, that's all right. Got to start somewhere.
That's right.
All I know is my neighbors are having fun shooting guns off.
That's
Pretty
always
loud.
a good time.
How have you been coming along, Joey? I seen one of your updates a little bit ago, but I haven't seen it since. So,
Well, on Monday, I start my freight conductor training with the Arkansas Missouri Railroad. So,
all
I
right.
landed a railroad career finally.
Okay.
And I was in New York this past weekend, seeing my family, since I've seen them over a year since COVID. So it was good to see them in between jobs as well. And let's see, as much as everything else, we've been very busy on the homestead and just getting ready for the spring and summer. And we have installments for our new goat pen, which is really a whole fence, just about goes around the entire perimeter of the other house. And that's going to be for our pigs and our goats and our new dogs that we have.
Listen,
So,
I got to
we're
give you
very
credit. When you commit, you commit. You were living in Nashville as a country music star, traveling around the world, and goats, man, and now goats.
Yeah.
All right, I love it.
I should say, Ralph, your camera wasn't on.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
No, there's no train in the bowl. Calm down. Say hi. Look, there's Ralph. Say hi. Say hi. Wait, hi.
Jesus, that's right.
So here's a question. Has anybody ever installed the scale train detail kit on their operator series locomotives?
Yeah, I've done it about 200 times.
Yeah.
Just 200?
It's not easy.
Is it really
Just for
good?
me.
Don't touch
But it's
well, they
only, it doesn't get you all the way. The thing that drives me a little bit crazy about it is there's still some parts in there that comes on the rivet counter that is still not a component of the it's not like you can buy the operator series and the detail kit and basically be the rivet cutter. That's still,
Right. I'm just getting frustrated because I don't have any directions. There aren't any instructions to go along with the prototype on the model you have. And I just posted on Facebook just to let CL trainers be aware of that, because it's very difficult to try to find photos on something that is very limited unless you actually have your own photos, something that's not pixelated, or you have to zoom in or find a video to take a screenshot or buy an actual book.
And they vary. They vary,
Right.
and that's part of the joy of Rivet Counter and Ather Genesis and various other out there is that they're row number specific. So that gets rather difficult.
Right. And one guy said one operating series is one glyph fits all. I absolutely agree with that. The models are spectacular, but if you're gonna add a detail kit to a model, and at least come with something to where it's easier for the model to put this together. I mean, this is not for someone who is a novice or doesn't have the experience. And it is a very test of patience. And you better make sure you have a big magnet on your body, because these things will pop right off and they'll fly and they'll disappear into the abyss. Unless you have a magnet all over your body where it attaches right to your chest, you can just pull it right off and put it back on the workbench.
Well, you need to take, I forget, somebody makes one that does this, but take take your little, your whatever, and pin it up to the workbench so that, so you have
It's called an apron.
Yes, that's right. It's called an apron, and you like to pick on me already over it, but it's awesome. And
But I was trying to figure out what a whatever is, and as soon as you said tack it to the workbench, I knew what it was.
Go.
I couldn't say whatever it was.
Let it go.
yeah, you can take it. It's a whatchamacallit. You take your apron and
Get him,
you,
Leah.
clamp
Get
it
him,
to
Leah.
the workbench.
Don't give it to him.
And they're awesome. Love my apron. It's got pockets, man. Super handy. I love things with pockets are handy.
And it's not like your big fingers could fit into the little tiniest spots. Even with the small tweezers that I have, I still can't get through certain.
What I find is super surprising that they have absolutely zero instructions, that it's just a pack of parts, that there's nothing whatsoever. That's a bit surprising. And I have, recommended the operator series locomotives a lot to people because
Me
a
too.
lot of people like to argue about the price of rice in China. I mean, the price of model railroading, and that's a valid argument. But when you can buy a good locomotive for $100,
So Joey, you're complaining about your big fingers and your tweezers and trying to get parts to fit. Dan
Yeah.
Ward says I have 4 locomotives to model. Even though they are GP9s, each one has their own specific details.
Yes.
In N scale.
Oh,
N scale.
here.
Not
He-
HO.
He can take the models. I'll pay him.
but
Well,
he's
that's-
as
I don't know.
committed in scale as any of us at HO. I mean, you've seen the
Absolutely.
brass bulkhead flats that he put together for brass in scale with all the cross bracing and stuff.
So Dan, how do you install your details? What do you use? Since you have these tiny parts on N scale, not any other scale.
Tweezers.
Well, part of that trick is
crazy
not-
glue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't love super glue, but there's a lot of detail parts that super glue, the dissimilar materials. Super glue is pretty much your only choice for sub detail part installations.
Right.
The epoxy, thin down epoxy is fine for some things. What's that thing you use on your handrails, Ralph? The
CA glue.
Well, you use like a hobby tack or something? Is that what it is for some of your
Oh.
handrail installations?
Oh, when I do the handrails, that's in HO, not in N scale.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense. I really like the concept
And
of using something that gives a bit, that's a bit
The
rubbery.
hobby, I use the hobby tack. I let it dry, put it on both pieces. When you put it together, it forms like a contact cement,
Yes.
but it makes it, if you have to remove them again, they're not fixed with a CA glue, so it's easy to take them apart.
Mhm.
And it gives, and it doesn't get brittle over time. So, hey, Scott, Hillbilly Railroad. Boy, I ain't seen you in a long time. Good to catch up with you. I'd love to catch up with you sometime, Scott. But yeah, tweezers, Dad, craziest thing in the world. One of the best tools that I spend an excessive amount of money for what it is. You can buy tweezers for $1 or $2 all the time. And I bought a $20 set of tweezers. And there's a big difference in a $15 or $20 set of tweezers than there is a $2 set. A good set of tweezers is one of those investments. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but it's one of those places where where I was happy that I spent more than seemed natural for tweezers.
Well, I have about a half dozen different pair of tweezers here, and I keep going between them because some of them work, some of them don't. Some of them work for some projects, and some of them don't. So,
Right.
Yep. And you need flat and bevel ended, and these ones that are these ones that are offset a bit. I rather like these that are
yeah,
offset.
that's the ones I prefer. The ones that have the curved tip.
Yep. Well, and you could be, I really like them when you're working against. What's really awesome is when you're working against a flat surface, and you can lay them back against the flat surface to work. You can see real good. You can and when you do that, they'll rest, in place, so you're not, shaking around like you're going to do when you need to hold still real bad.
So, Joey, you talk about your stuff flying off into the abyss. Did you ever hear the story of when I was doing the railings on the Burlington Northern locomotive that I weathered?
No, but please share.
It's so good.
Got all the railings done. I'm doing the railing that goes from the cab at the front down to the step. So it's just a short one, right?
Yeah.
Short railing. I got it in the tweezers. And this is the other thing. Because it's made of Delrin, it's a very slippery material. So if you squeeze too hard with your tweezers, it's going to take off.
Yeah.
I was working in my workbench or my work area that I had upstairs, and it had a hardwood floor. If anything fell on the floor, I could hear the general area that it fell in, so I can go and look for it in that area. Well, the railing wasn't going to make much sound when it fell, but I looked for an hour, hands and knees with a flashlight parallel to the floor, trying to find anything that would stick up. Nothing. I was getting so frustrated. It was a Cato locomotive, so I got on the internet, started to go to Cato USA to try and get new railings. They're out of stock. And I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do now? Got back on the floor, looked for another 15, 20 minutes. And I finally gave up and went downstairs and sat with my wife just to try and just to give myself some peace, right?
Right.
The cat comes walking by, and there on the back of the cat was the railing.
So now, anytime he loses something, we ask him if he's checked the cat.
The cat's not allowed down here anymore, not down here anyway.
I usually find the parts a month after I buy the extra parts, and my client already has his models back.
Yep.
Who was it that lost that magnet that one time?
That's
Me.
Ralph too.
Me.
I was getting ready to remind him of the magnet too.
Ah,
That was right about the time I started hanging out in here, if I remember right.
yeah. I was doing that. The Volkswagen that floated in the air, the levitation Volkswagen, and it had about a 2-inch diameter magnet that went with the electromagnet base, and I put it on the edge of the table here behind me, and I started to work, and I went to do something, and I heard something fall. Couldn't figure out what it was. When I went looking for the magnet, I couldn't find it. I have a little, like a fishing tackle box, just a small one, plastic one, that has all my weathering powders in it. And it also has a metal sleeve of watercolor pencils. The magnet fell, and like I moved everything. I took everything apart here, get it out of the corner to try and find things. I even grabbed that toolbox and moved it. But I never looked at the back of the toolbox, because at the back of the toolbox, the magnet found the metal case on the inside, and it's a rare earth magnet. So I went snap to the metal case through the plastic, and now it's on the toolbox. I couldn't find it. And when I was holding the toolbox, Johnny said to me, Johnny says, what the? Anyway, so Johnny saw it on the back of the toolbox. He says, "What's that on the toolbox?" And I turned it around, and there was the magnet.
Yet had he not been on the video or whatever, and he looked for it like there was a period of time of like weeks or something, it seems like to me now. But
Well, it's like that one time I busted open all of the little tiny model drill bits, and they fell on the floor.
oh, and they got all mixed up. That's
Yeah.
right.
And thank goodness for this, for the magnetic tips on these screwdrivers, able to pick all of them up in one shot.
Yes, Joey. The case slides open.
Yeah, it doesn't pop open, right? He was
I
there for
don't
that.
have the right answer for drill bits. Anyway, I don't want to buy a case that has one drill bit of each. And I don't want to buy just a whole bunch of number 76s. I'd love to just go buy 10 of each of some quantity or something like that instead of getting
You
these
can
little
do that. You can do that. And they come in little tubes like this.
But you have to buy like a group of number 76s and a group of number 80s, right? To do that, you can't just order a box of each.
You buy what you keep breaking.
Right, of course.
Half of them you're not going to be using anyway.
So do you get them from Micromark, I'm assuming?
It's the only place I used to get them at our hobby shop, but
Sure.
that's now gone. So now you have to get them at Micromark.
Right. Yeah, it's just I was hoping. Well, I mean, I'd like to, and what I've ordered before previously has been ordering from Amazon. But when you order from Amazon, maybe late here, when you order from Amazon, you get one of each drill bit, and you get the plastic case and all the other. And I don't want any of that.
Yeah.
I just want the bits.
Well, I have the drill bits in this case.
Yeah, that's not so bad. I just don't like the big flat one.
But it's one of each. But then also when you get the pin vise, some of them come with drill bits inside, like this type of drill bit or pin vise.
Oh, I like that. Is
Right?
that one of the pull woods?
No.
Okay.
Inside is all the different drill bits.
Yeah, that's very, very handy. What I
the only problem with this pin vise is that the chuck that's in the end of it, it's not like this type of pin vise where you have a different chuck in the back that you can pull out and flip over. That's two different sizes there. And then the one that I have in there already is same thing, but two different sizes again. And it's a swivel end on it.
Right. But I remember, who was that? One of our fellas some years ago, might have been Jim, but I can't remember, bought like 30 pin vices and put a number 80 in one and a number, you know what I mean? It had them all marked and everything. Now, that might have been a bit excessive, but especially if you could hold the bits in them like that, it wouldn't hurt my fellas to have 5 or 10 pin vices dedicated to a given bit and marked label correctly with quite a few bits in that pin vise, because I'm often using a few pin vices anyway, swapping back and forth between.
There.
Right. That makes sense.
All with different sizes in them. This one is double-ended. I don't have
Ooh.
anything in the other end. This one is double-ended, and I put in
A needle.
no
A tack.
an upholstery tack.
Yeah,
Oh.
thumb tack
It's round
for a
so
burning
that
tool.
it doesn't hurt the palm of your hand when you're turning it and pushing it.
Yeah, and that was Curtis you were thinking about, Andy.
Yes. Okay, right. I knew it was in that time period. I couldn't remember. Yeah, Curtis. That actually made quite, and he had a fairly large one that's really nice. Actually, it had a nice like a wood.
Yeah, all of them had wood balls on it because he's showing it to us one night.
Yep.
And I asked him if he knew how to do that the easy way. And he said, "What do you mean the easy way?" I said, "Well, you take a string, you tie it to the shank, you wrap it around the shank, you put the drill bit where you want it, and then you pull the string."
Yeah, it started like a
Yeah. And he was about ready to start doing that. Then he realized what I was doing.
yeah. Yeah, I remember that now. That was good.
I told him it'd be like a yo-yo. If he pulled it fast enough, it kind of released the tension, it'd rewind itself.
Oh, that's so good.
You should have told him you got to make the noise too. Vroom, 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 vroom every time he does it.
Yes, yeah, that's the good stuff. But he had numbers, stenciled or something on them, or I mean,
yeah.
And he had like a tremendous number that I don't see that I would need that many, but there's a good 7 or 8 probably that covers 99% of my usage.
How you
I
doing?
think I'll do that.
Yeah, and here we go. We got Andrew from Down Under. How you doing?
Andrew.
Yeah, Baloo.
Baloo. All right. Good to see you. Good to see you on, brother. I'd love to see you in one of the evening shows.
Tim, you got to turn your mic off. We're getting the feedback. Well, we were. We're not now. Okay.
Yeah, Baloo, Mr. Baloo. I'd love to catch up with you if you want to hop on sometime and, in the regular Werby.
Yeah, it's good to know COVID ain't claimed him.
He's too mean for it. It stayed away.
Yep.
He growls at it. All I have to do is put 5 ladders on. Why is it taking me hours?
You're putting what? Ladders?
Yeah, this little guy right here. That you go on. You grip on. They go on top of the locomotive rooftop.
Hand grab.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. The
Grab
bit
iron.
at the top. Ladders
Like
are.
a 6 ladder.
What
So hang on. You're putting it in the holes that are there without pre-drilling or re-drilling the holes.
I did pre-drill the holes. The issue is the little tabs to put them in the hole. They're not wide enough, and these are only ladders type. The only grab irons you get, and they're the right size, but they're all bent. So I got to put one in the hole and bend the other without that flipping and falling into the floor somewhere.
Yes, and they're springy, so.
That's where you need a pair of
So
force.
here's a little tip for you, Joey. Next time you go to the hardware store,
Yeah.
get a can. They have a product where, and most of the guys use it for the handles of their tools.
Mhm.
You dip the handle in this stuff. It's a liquid, and it forms like a plastic. Makes it into a grip.
Yeah.
You dip the tips of your tweezers. Like if you have 2 different curved sets, take one of the curved ones and just dip it in the vinyl or whatever it is, and let it dry. Then you have one that has it's a better grip and it won't slip out.
Ah.
Yeah, it's called Plastidip, I believe. Just it's very
Plastic
aptly named, but I think it is just Plastidip. Yeah, that's good stuff. What I'm looking for, I've got, of course, brass, which is not ferric, but I've been interested in that thing that I forget who was doing it now, but who was putting magnets on the bottom of the feet. Actually, I think he was putting magnets on the locomotive and positions and putting metal on there. And I'd like to put the magnets, like those little magnets that we're using on the.
Scott Thornton. Scott Thornton was doing it.
Exactly. And it was a super cool idea to do that. And I'd like to use the little magnets because I've ordered a bunch of them that are like the air hose magnets. They're dipole or whatever. But I need something like a music wire or something small enough for grab irons so that they could be grab irons and they would be ferric so that you could stick to the grab irons without having to put metal in places on the piece of equipment. And actually, that way they'd stick straight to the grab irons if you put magnets on the hands and feet. But I don't think you're going to be in music wire to make, that's not the right answer, I think. It's too hard to bend. So you still need something ferric to make grabs with, or at least ladders. I don't think grabs matter, but ladders. And I've been using the brass ladders anytime I replace them or get a kit that has plastic ladders. I use the brass ones from Elgin car shops. They do a lot of resin stuff. Those brass ladder kits they're great. Love them. But I'd like to have them in something that was ferric. Piano wire. That's right, Adrian. Yeah, piano wire. All right. And that's ferric. I'm just curious. I need to try and see if grab, again, 2 spots with a hand and a foot, if that's strong enough. If that's strong enough.
You don't have to stand on it, Andy.
What? Yeah, well, the guy has to stand on it, but he's been eating pretty light and working hard, so he's not too heavy.
The problem with a lot of that stuff is it's so brittle. It's hard, but it's strong, but it's brittle when you go to bend it.
Well, E string off a guitar.
And Johnny said to mention to anybody else who's popping in that tonight we're messing with our StreamYard account because we just set it up a month ago as a test, and we love it, and we're committed to using it now. But we're limited to 6 people tonight as we move to the annual plan. So by tomorrow and for future shows, we won't have this limitation, but tonight we have 6. So here in a minute, I'll pull back from the stream and open a spot up as well. So, but carry on. Oh, and there's a lot of those ferric wires that don't have a lot of structural rigidity. Like in the jeweler space, they use some wires that could be ferric. But yeah, I'll try some piano wire. Make sure it's So a lot of those are like super hard to cut. So
you have to get real wire cutters, not the ones we use for modeling.
Oh yeah, man, you got to be careful.
Electricians' wire cutters.
Yeah, dikes. Good set of dikes, which these are not the best, but boy, you want to destroy a pair of Durod or whatever track cutters in a hurry. Cut some of that
wire
off your cut the KD.
You could also use a Dremel disc, which gives you a cleaner cut.
They're a shear. The ones where the music wire are a shear. They're not a dike. Dikes are for a softer metal like copper or brass.
Okay,
but they're actually a shear. They got
I can use the Dremel too for cutting like the soft cut levers off KDs. Which I'm going to go back to Sargent's, but for right now, I'm sticking with KDs for a while till I get operating. And they're hard. If you cut those with these things right here, man, you're going to find it 3 months later in your bare feet. So.
Yeah, and you're gonna find you nick those edges on those. Your shears that I'm talking about, I've got a pair of them upstairs. They're flat edged on one. One of them's flat edged. The other one's got a bevel to it. Where your dikes are both sides got a bevel on them, right? Just like your side cuts or your regular wire cutters. But the shears.
I use an electrician or a lineman pliers that have the cutter on it, and that's all you need. You don't have to cut right through. All you have to do is put that crease in it, and then it'll break off.
Yeah, bend it back and forth.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, don't try to cut all the way through it.
Well,
the Pirates,
it can, and it doesn't do much damage. The jaws on there, I don't care if it gets damaged because it's only cutting electrical wire.
yes. I mean, you're going to have to work the tool. That stuff is pretty dense. It's just going to destroy fine jeweler's tools, which Zurod, I've said many times before, if you buy Zurods labeled for model railroading with some pictures on the cardboard, they're like $20 or $15. If you buy them in the jeweler's aisles, they're like, $10 or $11 just because they're dedicated to model railroading. But it's a jeweler's tool. Zurod makes jewelry tools. I largely do use jewelry tools. Pirates is talking about the Alco brass locomotives, and I'm not sure the specifics of what you're doing, and maybe those guys do too, but brass is not hard to solder, to work with a relatively small little torch.
Well, I'm looking at Pirates of Model Trains. He has an Alco brass model of an MP15 AC. He got it off eBay last month, and the cross braces were broken off the truck mount. So he wants to know how to put it back on again. Does he need a welder's license? Well, unless you have what do you call it? A resistance soldering tool. I would stick with using AC glue.
Huh. Well,
unless it's structural, because you can't solder it without possibly desoldering something else because of the heat you're applying.
Yeah, that's true. You need a lot of heat sinks to work with propane or something. If you're building a part that's separate that you can install or whatever, like I want to build my own brass plows. I think I watched that on Trademaster TV, and I really like the way those were done. And you can do that with MAP gas or propane with a fairly small little propane torch, little bitty torch. But yes, if you're actually working on a model, that's everything's going to desolder at the same time. That's true.
Like when you bend the plastics to a gondola to make it look dented and torn up from just years of abuse. I know folks use a little bit of a torch. Even a heat gun will work too, I think.
It will, and I watched guys use an open flame torch, and I cringe.
Me too.
At the thought of it. I use a soldering iron with a really fat tip on it, and just hold it up behind the plastic. You don't have to touch the plastic; just hold it up behind it, and then I have a wooden dowel that I have rounded off, so it's blunted. And then I push from the inside to get it to bulge out. But to do it with a torch, I don't know. You hold it there too long, you're going to destroy the car altogether.
I've seen guys do that with a piece of metal, and they bend it that way. But I think the wooden dowel, I know the wooden dowel is definitely safer alternative.
Well, it makes a better. It's a better bend point using a dowel too. It's a more realistic, the actual surface of that. I've got some of the Arrowhead. They've only made a couple cars, and I'm sure you guys heard. I really love the Arrowhead model stuff. Everything Blaine is producing is just almost unparalleled. But I've got a couple of those brass-sided gods, that the rail god or the Godex gods. And they're brass-sided, and I've seen a few people kind of growl about that, saying it's hard. And I think the brass is the bee's knees. It's everything we've wanted in a plastic model. It's a hybrid model, a part brass, part plastic. But I have not exactly figured out how to dig that car up yet. Josh, NS Modeler 24, has done it on his channel, but in the process of doing it, he disassembled the car unintentionally. Not exactly a SpaceX rapid unscheduled disassembly, but it was definitely a bit of a disassembly. And I'm wondering if I should just plan on disassembling in order to bang the brass up.
Good question.
Yeah, it's all curiosity, and I'm so far I'm thinking nail punch probably.
You're going to have to experiment with that.
Right.
Andy, have
And
you
I'm
ever
thinking about
seen?
trying to- Sorry.
Have you ever seen those little? They're a little bean bag or sandbag. They're just a little small one that they use for body work
Okay.
to back the hammer on the opposite side of the hammer.
Oh, you don't. Oh, not like a dead blow. Not.
No, not a dead blow, but on the backside of the body hammer a lot of times, or around where the hammer in the body at. They'll take and they got a beam. They'll have like a bean bag, and they stick it on the opposite side of the panel than what they're hammering on,
Okay.
and it absorbs some of that impact.
When I knew I'd have to do something like that, and my assumption was I'd cut a little bit of a block of wood or something that I could clamp to the table, slide the car up over top of that piece of wood so it would have some surface. But even then, it could all move around. I've got one of those bean bags like you're talking about. It's about this big. It's meant to be. It's part of the iFixit kit, so you can microwave it and put it on an iPhone in order to weaken the glue so you can take a screen off. I might try that as well. Yeah, Pirates, if you would, if by all means, put up a little video of what you've got on YouTube, post a link to it on our Model Railroad Live Facebook, Model Railroad Live Facebook channel.
He could even put the video on our Facebook feed.
Right. Yeah. Post it in the Facebook community, and yes, it'd be a lot easier to see it. And I do think it might be possible with a torch to solder, but it has got to be. Ralph's absolutely right. It's going to heat up, and it's got to be a very fast operation to get everything in position structurally. Hit it really hard with the fast with a lot of heat and the solder already. And what I've done in order to do that fast is take a little bit of solder and cut it so you have a little block of solder. Position the solder with your tweezers and hit it real hard. Hit it real hard with the heat so you can just go straight in. You're heating the solder and the part real quick and then take the heat away. It's got to be fast, or a resistance iron is for sure your best bet. And I've got to have a resistance iron. I just haven't broke down and bought it. $700. I've been kicking it around for 2 years. So,
well, something else that works really good is the butane soldering torches.
Well, that's basically what I'm talking about doing. It's one of those little small torches like they used on Trainmaster TV.
No, it's a soldering iron, but it's butane and there's an internal flame. It's not an external flame.
Well, it's not really internal either. It's behind the head.
Yeah.
And it comes out, flares down the side a bit.
Okay, but it still has it's what you're talking about is one of those little portable soldering irons that has a tip, but the tip is heated by butane.
Right. It's heated by a flame.
And those will heat up really, really quick.
Yeah, and Spark, I don't disagree sometimes, but there are some decent deals in brass these days. When you look at $300, $400, $500 plastic locomotives out there, there are some brass locomotives that are competitive in certain spaces, especially as some of these that are repairable. And if you're anything close to a prototype model or modeling an actual prototype, odds are, especially if you're in steam, you're going to have a brass locomotive or two in order to meet your prototype. So when I was modeling steam, brass was going to be a requirement, at least for a couple unique locomotives that no plastics manufacturer would ever do because the volume would be too low. It's like resin freight car kits. Same thing as resin freight car kits.
Well, the next question would be, Sparky mentioned you can call the manufacturer and see if you can get a replacement. Well, some of these brass manufacturers are no longer in business.
Oh, yeah. Well, they run such small numbers anyway. I mean, one of the benefits of brass, again, just like resin freight car kits or like garage casting for plastics modeling, you can do all kinds of creative and specific things if your run number is 50 units or 100 units. But if you're doing what Athert or Scale Trades or anybody else is, and you're running, you need to run 10,000 or 50,000 in order to make it economically feasible, then you can't be road number specific, or you need to make a box car that can have 50 paint schemes on it. It gets more and more generic the more quantity that's required to meet. So, again, I think even in modeling relatively modern era, there's some things like Southern Railway radio cars that is going to be either brass made by Overland for me, which is likely the way I'm going to solve that, or it's going to be a resin freight car kit from Right Track, which, by the way, those are so hard to find and worth so much because they're rare that I can buy a brass one for almost the price that I can buy a resin kit. So brass is, it shouldn't be off your radar completely. Although this day and age, I'm not sure that brass is entirely as justifiable as it once was, but it's worth considering brass for a thing or two. Oh, like a railway crane.
It could be fairly easy too.
Yeah, or like a railway crane or maintenance of way equipment. Brass equipment is one of the best way to get those unique pieces. But if you're going to do much work on it, especially if you buy brass, you're typically talking about remotoring and all that other stuff. And I can't at all, unless you're going to do a lot of it, unless you're O-scale going to convert to Proto 48, you might as well just buy the machine shop that you need and commit to it. But if you're going to do a brass one or two pieces, you might as well just assume that you're going to pay the $200 or $300 to send it to someone who does that a lot and pay somebody for that expertise, because I think you benefit from doing that. That's what I would do, because I'm not going to gain the expertise in that very specific thing. Oh, Scott, let's see. Scott mentions about those UV Ped lights. Ralph, you have some experience. You might provide your opinion on that UV Ped.
I have one, and I've actually used it to repair end scale railings, and it actually works.
It's fast, right? So
it takes about 5-10 seconds.
Yeah, I've got one of those too. I just haven't tried it yet. How strong is it? Of course, stronger than CA, right?
I have not tested it. All I was concerned was getting the railing back together again. I didn't try and pull it back apart again, because then it would have broken somewhere else.
Huh.
Well, that stuff's probably the same material you use for your 3D printer, isn't it? Basically the same resin.
I think it is, because it comes in a little tube, and where is it?
Well, there's a lot of different.
It comes mine anyway. Came in this little tube, and it fits onto a handle that has the UV light on it. It has a nozzle on it that's like a very fat syringe. And you just squeeze the side of it, and the liquid comes out. Once you have the liquid in place, it's tacky enough to hold parts together temporarily. And then you hit it with the UV light. You're good to go.
Nice.
It probably is the same resin basically as the SLA printers, but there's a lot of formulations of those resins, and I've got some of that resin. I haven't tried taking my UV pen and just using some of that resin, but they're not very thick. Versus that glue is much thicker than the resin that I have.
Well, it's not really.
Okay.
It's not really that much thicker.
But it's just the applicator.
I don't have anything I can put it on, so.
Size of a ballpoint pen, Sparky says, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's Spark. Actually, if you're going to truly be an O-scale 2 rail, not O-scale template or 3 rail, if you're going to be O-scale or S-scale or something like that, brass is just going to be the thing. If you're going to be an ON3 modeler, not necessarily ON30, ON3 or SN3, you're going to be doing it in brass. If you were an HON3 modeler
Not really. Guys are doing 3D printing now.
Oh,
with
well, yes. All bets are off
the
with 3D
resin printing.
That's true.
I don't know whether you guys know Mike Ostertag. He's been making his diesels. A friend of his does the drawings, and then they feed it into the resin printer, and out it comes. They do it in panels because
They're doing like HON30 or something. Is that what they're doing?
They're doing S scale.
Okay, I knew it was something.
So you have to do it in panels because the machines that you and I are willing to pay for, won't print that size. I mean, you want to spend $2,000, you can get one that'll print a whole shell. But
in
the meantime, you do it in sections and glue it together.
That's right. O-scale, man, the things get big. Our instinct is to think that HO is roughly twice the size of N-scale and O is roughly twice the size of HO scale. It's really kind of 4 times because, there's a mass to it, which I love O-scale, but there's problems. There's limitations that I just can't get around. Space, money.
How can you say it's 4 times?
Well, it's because it's both twice as wide, twice as tall. You know what I mean? In mass, it's even maybe
going by scale, 187 or 143 or 48 or whatever it is.
Yes,
that's half.
I agree mathematically, and if you're only talking about a straight line, like
it's either half or double. No, it's not a straight line. Everything gets sized up. Everything.
That's right. But if you're talking about rail gauge or something like that, that is, is a 2-dimensional mathematical consideration, your rail gauge is roughly twice the size. But when you take a piece of equipment that's both twice as wide, twice as long, twice as tall, it feels much more than twice. An O-scale Y6B feels a lot more than twice the size of an HO scale.
That's the key word. Feels.
I don't disagree.
It actually is only double the size.
Does anybody else get the feeling that this is very rapidly turning into a DC versus DCC conversation?
Yeah.
I was gonna say the problem Andy I think seeing is he's looking at the track gauge, but we're talking scale.
Yeah, you're looking at I think it's
the track gauge.
Ralph looking more practically and logistically.
If I took a scale ruler and the scale for one, and then I find the opposite scale and do it for the other, and it's actually double the size, I don't see the.
Well, the thing is, you got O27 and O scale.
Yeah, but now, okay. You're talking when you start getting into no, it's not just track. It's also getting into the tin plate and the 3 rail. But true scale, HO and O scale 2 rail.
Yeah, everything's just doubled.
It is 2 scale. Everything measures out. If you measured it with a scale ruler, it would come out to the same dimension in real life.
Now,
within a fraction of an inch.
HO is literally half of O.
If you're going to compare HO to standard gauge, then that's almost 4 times.
Mm-hmm. No.
Well, that's why I'm saying again. This may just be emotional, and again, O scale's not right because of the width of the gauge anyway. P48 or Proto 48 is a more facsimile. But if you've seen an O scale big boy, even if this is an emotional consideration, if you wanted to take an O-scale boxcar, you could put 4 or more HO-scale boxcars inside of there. So it's not as simple as that.
Okay. there's 187 car.
All right.
Okay. 187. And if I go to my barn find, which is 124th, this car here, which is a Volkswagen, I forget the model.
Probably a rabbit.
Oh, pardon me, it's a Skoda. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
No,
The size of this car in real life is 20 feet, let's say. The size that I have in that barn find, that car is the same size. And if I put this beside it, it will look like a toy to that.
Yeah.
And that's that's 124th.
Hey, look at that. Hey,
So I think here's the point that Andy's trying to get to in a weird sort of roundabout Andy kind of fashion.
it's me.
Scale takes into consideration length, width, and depth. Whereas what Andy's talking about is mass and has nothing to do with scale.
Absolutely. Mass. That's right. And just as a simple
The mass
metric of it,
doesn't
take those
change
box
from
cars.
scale.
Well, take
The
those
mass
box
doesn't
cars
change.
Joey's got. How many of those box cars could you put inside? How many HO scale box cars could you put inside of an O scale box car? At least 4.
Right. That's
For
mass.
example,
And the mass does change
That's why I think 4 is
Or
a better.
volume.
exponentially, actually.
Yes.
Volume is what Andy's more referring to right now when he's talking about how many you can fit inside of one another.
Well,
But
yes,
it's still
specific.
twice as wide, twice as tall, twice as long. So
Yep.
yeah, you can fit 4 of them in there. That's because it's twice as long, twice as high, and twice
Joey.
as wide.
That's right.
Did
That's why I
I
was
just
saying-
see you have an O scale box car and an HO scale box car? Did you just show that?
Yes, he did.
Do you have another HO box car roughly the same dimensions as the one you showed?
HO to HO.
Or 2 HOs to an O, kind of is the comparison.
So that's where I was trying to. That's exactly where I was going with that. So do me a favor, pull that O scale down in front of the camera, and then put 2 box cars back to back, minus the coupler.
Okay, that's O scale. Okay, let me try to put the 2 HO scale cars on here.
I didn't need to go
Well,
down
it
too much of a rabbit
depends
hole. It's
on-
just kind of an observation on my part.
I mean, this is a Thursday night rabbit hole, man. It's just kind of par for the course.
Sorry?
So line it up so that 2 ends are exactly in the same plane, right? So we could, and then hold it up so we could see if two box cars would fit across it.
So
Yeah, left
that
justified.
should come just about to the center of the door.
Pretty close.
Well, close. I mean, truth be told,
Down
O
the very edge of coupler to coupler, it's about halfway there.
well,
It's still a bit
148
longer.
Well, 148, half of that mathematically be 196, so we're 187. So it's not truly. Again, these are kind of feelings. It's not
Okay,
true.
but wait a minute, hold on, Andy, because now you're just getting persnickety about
I
it.
know.
You know,
That part's irrelevant. I'm thinking about how it feels when you're running a train. It feels bigger than twice.
yeah. So turn it back so we can see the ends of it. So if you line those up so that the left side, as the camera sees it, is in the same plane, you wouldn't be able to get 2 box cars side by side. It's like 1.5.
Yeah. So
Well, and see, that's where you actually get into. We're not actually 187th. We're 187.1.
well, no, the
Well,
problem
the
is
other thing is
148.
the manufacturers take license to make it the size they want.
Sure.
Well,
Exactly.
Yeah.
the
Like
mathematics
this
are
car is going to be different from MPH or Lionel Vision Line.
Yep.
Box car.
yeah, but even if you have true to scale, if you wanted half of O scale mathematically, you would have to it would have to be 196, not 187th, and that does make a difference.
So Mystic Southern Line says we need an investigation. I'm kind of going with no. We've gone far enough down this rabbit hole. We really don't need to go farther.
Well, I
No,
wasn't
no.
even trying to be precise about this. I didn't even say mathematically why it made sense. I'm just saying if you're running an O scale big boy versus running an HO scale big boy, it feels like it's more than twice. It just
Here's
feels
here's the
fast.
comparison of 027 to standard, just O scale.
Joe G says he didn't know we were going to be doing math tonight. Well, we like to kick it up a notch around here once in a while.
That's right. Occasionally,
Smack
a
some
little
knowledge on
chemistry, little chemistry, little physics, little this, little that.
All right. Well, math class is over with. We done hit the 1 hour mark.
Yeah, it's all emotional. It's all emotional anyway.
Andy, you're always emotional.
In the nightly chat on whereby.com/Mile Railroading Live. So if you want to hear the continuation, you can go there.
And appreciate you, Sparky.
Epilogue.
You want to say bye-bye?
Bye, Liam.
Bye, buddy.
Bye. Bye.
Yes, sir, Bill. This is why #1 Model Routing Show is because of these discussions. It's the math and the chemistry.
No, it's because of Liam. Come on.
Oh, look. He's the star.
Everybody tune in just to see the cute kids.
That's it.
All righty. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming in, everybody in the chat, and all y'all on the panel. Tonight, as Andy explained, we could only get 6 tonight, but after this, we'll have the Popar fixed. We can do 10 people like we have been doing, and we can multi-stream.
Yeah, we'll have it fixed again tomorrow for future shows.
Yep. So, anyhow, with that said, don't forget, Bill's got a show next Wednesday. Be sure and tune in because it's a pop quiz. He's going to be quizzing everybody in the panel. So,
Uh-oh.
Oh, right.
yeah.
Oh, look at that. I think I have plans that day.
No excuses. No
I'll
excuse.
be getting quizzed, that's for sure.
Oh.
Not on Bill's show.
I got the
I
COVID.
got short-term memory loss.
Y'all have a good weekend. We shall catch y'all next week on Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So if you're in a different time zone, be sure to make your adjustments. All right. We'll talk to you later. Have a good one.
All right, we'll see you, Johnny.
See you later.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.